Good afternoon or good late morning to those of you out west, and welcome to today's NRCA webinar. We are excited to hear from a panel of women from the roofing industry today, and this webinar is presented on behalf of National Women in Roofing as well. And we would also like to thank today's sponsor of our webinar, The Estimating Edge. We thank them for sponsoring all of NRCA's May webinars. Just a few details. You can ask questions to any of today's presenters by just typing in your question into the chat box on your control panel. We will have some time towards the end of the presentation today for Q&A. Also, today's presentation is being recorded, so if you have colleagues, coworkers that may not be able to attend today's presentation live, they can view it at a later date, and that recording will be posted to our NRCA website sometime next week. That is enough for me, so I will turn it over to Heidi Ellsworth to take it from here.
Thank you so much, Brad. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are very excited to be able to share the stories and the information on successful career paths. We have some amazing case studies and stories that we are looking forward to sharing with you today. So thank you again for being here. Today you will have on this panel myself, Heidi Ellsworth, and I am with HJE Consulting and RoofersCoffeeShop.com. I am also very proud to be the chair of the National Women in Roofing. On the panel is Jennifer Stone, who is with Nations Roof and also the National Women in Roofing Secretary. Lee Lipniskis, who is with Core Contractors and runs a council, NWIR Council out of Denver. Michelle Boykin, who is with Rackley Roofing, and she also runs a National Women in Roofing Council out of Tennessee. And Greta Bajrami, who is with Golden Group Construction out of the Northeast. We are very excited to have all these panelists. I have to tell you, I'm sure there's a few of you on this webinar who I may know. This is an amazing group of women. It really gives me chills on the stories, the information that they're going to share with you today. And that is really our objective, is sharing strategies on how to recruit, train, and retain women. So the best way to do that is by hearing from the women in the industry, their passion, their challenges. And we believe that having women in management and in roofing overall improves sales, profitability, customer experience, and overall company culture. So we're going to share with you how that all happens. Just a very brief introduction of myself. Again, I have been in the roofing industry for about 25 years, starting out with Malarkey Roofing. I've been with Carlisle, Eagleview, and I am very proud today to be with RoofersCoffeeShop.com and to have a consulting business. I also work with National Roofing Partners, a national roofing group that is just amazing and one of our founding sponsors of National Women in Roofing. We've also been very lucky to do a lot of work with NRCA, FRSA, Western States, and all of these groups are incredibly supportive of National Women in Roofing, and that is one of my great honors, is to be chairperson of this new association. And just real quick, I would like to introduce my daughter, who is on my back, and that is about 19 years ago, and how we had my kids, my family, have been part of the roofing industry for a very long time. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Jennifer Stone so that she can introduce herself.
Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. I do have the great pleasure of being the president here for the Northwest office. This office was actually greenfielded as a startup for Nations as part of a larger West Coast expansion plan. I have been here since the beginning, and we are kicking butt in year 3. My background really ranges from sales and marketing to starting up businesses, but mostly horticulture and green roofing. And I found my way sitting right here in this seat by combining, my past knowledge and my love of roofing. Who knew? I'm also, as you said, the secretary for National Women in Roofing, and I'm extremely proud to be part of this industry and our association and what we're accomplishing. Even more, I have the pleasure of introducing these 3 ladies that are going to be our storytellers today. and they are truly remarkable in our industry and changing the face of our industry. Our first storyteller is Greta Bajrami. Greta was actually brought to our attention, the National Women in Roofing Executive Board, after she spoke at a GAF conference, and just, kind of wowed everyone. Greta has this incredible story and determination, and I can't wait for everyone on this call to hear it. All right, Greta, you're up.
Hi, how are you, everyone? Hope everyone's having a good day so far. I'm so thankful to be able to share my story and how I ended up where I am today as owner and co-founder of Golden Group Construction in Worcester, Massachusetts. My story really begins of me coming to this country. I migrated here with my family back in 2000 from a country, Albania, Tirana, Albania. My mom and dad, left what we called home behind to pursue a better career and life for me, not necessarily for them. So my mom hung up her white coat as a doctor and moved me here to the States. I followed my education at the local university, Worcester State University in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I concentrated in business management and marketing degree. I always thought of myself as a professional that was going to go into management and work corporate America. It was actually my goal, and to work for big, Fortune 500 companies. And it wasn't until I was in a entrepreneurship class at Worcester State my senior year that it all changed for me. I wanted to become an entrepreneur because I saw this potential of owning my own business and really applying everything that I wanted, and really the sky being the limit for me. So I remember sitting in the class and developing my coffee shop. I knew that I was going to make a coffee shop and call it Tiramisu Cafe. And that was really where my heart was. And it wasn't until I met with a family friend at a family party, and he was telling me how he was in roofing, and I was telling him how I was going to open up my coffee shop. And the more I kept talking about the coffee shop, the more he kept saying, man, I wish there was somebody like this in roofing. I wish there was somebody in roofing that would love to care about the customer. Always comes first, the communication aspect of it. The customer is always right. We'll do it 100 times until we get it correctly. And that was when he asked me, like, have you ever thought about owning a roofing company instead of doing your coffee shop? And I looked at him like he was crazy, and I went back to class, and really the next couple of months I sat down with my partner Freddie, and we kept saying, can we really open up a roofing company? What do we know about roofing? And the next aspect of it is when we started doing our research, and we started going to the local supply houses and meeting with them and asking them if we could have the phone numbers of the local distributors. And to our surprise, everybody was very helpful. They gave us these GAF, which is one of the manufacturers. They gave us their pro guide, and we called it our Bible. Like, we went and we studied the whole pro guide, and we kept looking at all the pages, and we were really being typical college students again, where we were absorbing all the knowledge we could as quickly as possible. And we started to fall in love with the idea of becoming roofing entrepreneurs, and we went up to the city hall, opened up our company, and registered with the state. We got our home improvement contractor's license, and the next part was just really getting the employees to come on board. And with that said, it was kind of hard in the beginning, because being young entrepreneurs and being young individuals, it was hard to get roofers to trust us and to become part of our team. But we're very thankful that the 5 men that joined us in the beginning are still the 5 men that lead our team today. They trusted us. They knew that there was something that we knew what we were doing, and they really took the journey with us. And that's what established Golden Group. Those were our first team, and we went out there and we started working with general contractors because we didn't have the financing available to market direct to the consumer. So that was our biggest hurdle that we had to overcome in the beginning. Look, we had a team, we had construction equipment in a van that we had bought with a small startup loan, but really our biggest challenge was having homeowners trust us. And we knew that we had to gain knowledge, and we knew we had to gain trust, and what better way to do it than working with general contractors, already established brands in the community, and really working side by side with them. Well, that went really well. We had so much success. Everybody started to know us as the Freddie and Greta team, or sometimes they used to say Freda. Combine the two names together. We were known in the community. And one day I looked, it was 2014, and I said, I need something more. I need people to know that I am the face of the work that's being done. I want to take this company, and I want the people to know that it's really Golden Group that's accomplishing these roofs. So that fall 2014, I invested all my marketing dollars in Angie's List, and I knew I had to launch Golden Group direct to consumer. So that year we ended up doing 30 roofs by the end of December, and the following year we did close to 200 asphalt shingle roof installations. And in 2015, because so many calls were going into our local Better Business Bureau, we actually ended up winning the Better Business Bureau Market Excellence Award in 2015 because so many people were calling in to say that Golden Group was great and they were having such an amazing, different experience. With that said, I'm very proud today to say that our team has grown to 30 team members that work side by side with me. We install a little bit over 300 asphalt roofs every year in our community. We have a great community presence, and I, as a millennial entrepreneur, have partnered up with my university, Worcester State University, to go back yearly and speak to the entrepreneurship class and try to inspire future entrepreneurs. And also, I have sat in their foundation board to try to inspire as many people as I can for the construction industry and the potential that it can mean for biology major, communication majors, marketing majors, management majors. I'm very proud of what I do, and I'm so proud that it actually reflects it in my lifestyle as well. I have two beautiful children now who love roofing just as much as I do, and I'm proud of what's to come. Golden Group right now is growing at about 40% a year, so we're very thankful of that, and we cannot wait to see where our journey takes us.
Wow, Greta, I've heard this story now a couple times, and your passion, your vision, and your ability to overcome obstacles to be able to spearhead your own company is an incredible inspiration. And the story that you shared, too, about that one gentleman who gave you the idea to work in roofing, you know, to spark the idea coming from someone really is a great lesson for all of us in the industry to continue to put it out there. You know, we could all use a lot more Gretas, and we need that determination. Sharon, you shared with me, too, how you doubled your revenue from one year to the next and that it continues on that 40% growth. These are exactly the stories we need to keep sharing. Thank you. Thank you for changing the perception in your own market of roofing and the roofing industry, and we thank you for joining us, Greta. Next up, we have Lee. I met Lee at Western States Roofing Contractors Association trade show. Lee has the biggest smile. I was immediately drawn to her. Her positive attitude is absolutely contagious. You cannot be around Lee without being happy. I don't know if you're always like this, Lee, but I have never seen you not. There isn't much I wouldn't put past this lady. Lee, thank you for being one of our storytellers, and share with us how you got where you're at.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I think I always have a smile on my face, so I think it helps out throughout the day. But so thank you, everybody, for listening to my story. It really starts when I was in college. I graduated from Ball State University in Indiana with a degree in risk management and insurance. I wanted to get out of the small town where I grew up, so I applied for a job with Farmers Insurance as a field adjuster in Denver, Colorado. So I flew to Denver, never having been there before, interviewed, got the job the same day, and then moved cross-country 2 weeks later, not knowing anybody. And this was a big deal for me since I come from a tight-knit Italian family, and everyone, including aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone, all lives in 2 neighboring towns in Indiana, and this was back in 2007. So I sort of got into the roofing side of things, or the roofing industry on the other side, so the insurance side first. I was climbing on thousands of roofs a year and wanted more of an adventure, so after working for multiple insurance companies, I decided to go independent and travel the U.S. handling catastrophe claims, which I absolutely loved. I learned to be able to rely on just myself and become resourceful in some sticky situations. If you want stories of a woman in a quote-unquote man's industry, I have a lot, from just being an adjuster. I was 22 years old, but looked like I was 16, and many people would look at me and second-guess what I was doing, so I had to become an expert at a young age to prove myself to people and be able to hold my own on a roof with a contractor. So it was a tough situation, but I really enjoyed it. As some of you may know, this week is National Stand Down Week, which brings awareness to fall protection on all levels. And I have had a fall experience of my own that I obviously lived through. A large hailstorm in 2010 brought me back to Denver, working in a neighborhood with all wood shake roofs. I was doing a routine hail inspection. The homeowner was not home, and the house was a two-story. I was on the top section of the roof. I stepped on a large beehive, which was underneath the shake and was attacked by bees. I was swatting them away. I stepped back and fell from the second story of the house to the first story front porch roof. I was very lucky, no broken bones or anything, but I was left with this huge fear of bees and wasps. So that's kind of when I started thinking maybe I want to go a different route in my career. The funny thing is that I still love getting on roofs, so I kept going as an adjuster for a little bit, but shortly after that, I met one of the owners of Core Contractors, Andrew Schmidt, where I work now, on a roof, and really liked the company. I saw how he was respectful to homeowners and how he was honest. And we had seen each other for about the next 2 years, meeting on roofs and working together. And I wanted to kind of get out of the insurance side of things at that point and try something different. This was in the end of June of 2012. So I called Andrew. I told him that I was going to work for him by August and explained my credentials, and I actually started with Core in mid-July that year. And the company was very small at that point in time, about 11 employees. I started as an estimator because I knew the software so well, then went to the production team helping schedule the crews, order the materials, talk to the homeowners, and sometimes even go on site to manage the job. I went from there to become the operations manager and oversee our supplementing department, and then finally got promoted to the finance manager role, which I have now. And some of you can probably attest to this when I say that in a small company you wear many hats. So within that finance role, I also oversee the office, human resources, the risk management, and also am the safety director. So I was invited by the owners to join their leadership team about 2 years ago. That team consists of the 3 owners, the sales director, production manager, and myself. I'm the only female on that team. And they really have become so much more than just coworkers and bosses. They are a lot of the time my support system and confidence boosters. They have encouraged me to get involved with organizations that I'm passionate about, like the Alliance Foundation, who helps women locally and globally through scholarships and things like that, as well as, if you can see from my bullet points, I'm going to Africa and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro soon. I found this opportunity from Andrew, actually, who's on a nonprofit board who helps Colorado entrepreneurs start their businesses. And he really is the one who encouraged me to put myself out there and conquer this amazing feat. So with all of that being said, I feel like we as women can bring that feminine touch to the table, a different kind of thinking, so to speak. And I refuse to be a man-hater, man-bash, because I wouldn't be where I am today without some very influential and supportive men in my life. But I do want to talk about the qualities that we can bring to the table. I feel like we have the ability to empathize with people. Sometimes we have this sixth sense that helps us see what's happening behind the surface of a conflict, a problem, or possibly a tension in a meeting. I feel like we can, we also have the ability to multitask very well. And I don't mean multitask, I guess, in the simplest of words, like being able to walk and talk at the same time. I'm kind of talking about that ability to focus on many different objectives, to see things in a nuanced way, and to notice the connections between things that someone else might have missed. And I can attest that many of the women I've worked with or have encountered in the nonprofits I'm involved with have had this incredible ability to communicate a message in such a way that truth isn't sacrificed, but also neither with gentleness. And I really feel that this is so true with the National Women in Roofing Association as well, which is why I wanted to start the Colorado Council. Short little plug, we have a meeting on May 18th. If you're interested, let me know. I'll send you the invite. But really, there's so much positivity and reinforcement and, to be honest, love between the women of this organization that I knew there was no way I could not be involved. So I just want to say, I'm very excited to be on this call. Thank you so much for letting me share my story and thoughts with you and taking the time out of your day to listen to me.
Oh, Lee, I love it. I love it. I can hear your smile through your whole story. First off, I'd like to thank you for mentioning the Safety Stand Down Day. This is very important for our industry, and through your story, you truly understand the risks that we take every day and how important safety is in our industry. I know you and I have talked about safety even when we've met and at length, and we always tell our guys, our crews, 3 things. 1, safety, safety, safety. Number 2, the trade of waterproofing. Number 3, production. And I know your company feels the same way about safety, and you yourself, and I just want to draw attention to that, so thank you for mentioning that. Second, one time you told me you were an insurance nerd, and I just do not see how that could be so. I love how you took all this experience that you had and wrapped it all into the job that you're in and the only woman on your leadership team. We're really lucky to have you leading our Colorado Council and part of the changing face of this industry, for sure. Thank you, Lee. And good luck climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I can't even say it, Kilimanjaro. Good luck. Next up, we have Michelle. Michelle Boykin is with Rackley Roofing. Rackley Roofing has been such a huge supporter and founding sponsor of National Women Roofing. The company truly, truly embodies all of the pillars and the desire to improve our roofing industry. So Michelle was a natural choice for us here to come on and be a storyteller. We all know that Michelle had a huge part in the growth for Rackley Roofing, and she's going to share with us her story. Go for it, Michelle.
Thanks so much. And yeah, we're excited that we are a founding sponsor and that we're involved in National Women Roofing. Thanks for allowing me to share my story today. So my story also starts in college. I have a degree in accounting, and while I was in school, I worked a full-time job at a residential property management company. By the time that I graduated from college, I had no interest in working in the accounting field anymore, and so I just kind of stayed put at the job that I was working. And my husband was a realtor at the time, and it was when the market was crashing, so I was constantly looking for jobs that he might be interested in. I wasn't really looking for myself at that time. But I was in the paper one day, and I saw an ad for a local roofing company that needed an office manager, and 2 of the qualifications that they listed were accounting and the ability to speak Spanish. And I'm not fluent, but I can get by. So I thought, well, I'm gonna see what happens. So I decided to apply, and I ended up getting the job. The general manager of that office at the time is now my current boss and the owner of Rackley Roofing, Curtis Sutton. And also had a direct supervisor that managed our service department at that time. My job was basically that of a glorified receptionist for that service division. I'd file, answer phone calls, do a bit of paperwork. But unfortunately, my supervisor had a heart attack and he passed away suddenly, and it left our service team really scrambling trying to keep things going. So me, along with the rest of our service team at the time, just put in the long hours and did what needed to be done to keep things going. So shortly after that, our general manager of that office, Curtis, decided that he wanted to buy Rackley Roofing. And our office at that time was truly just a family. We really felt like we worked for Curtis and just, kind of just really were a family. So when he left, most of the staff came to him at some point and said, hey, if you've got a position available, I'd love to join you. And I was one of those people. Curtis is the type of person that kind of radiates success. He's a great leader, and he empowers his employees to be successful. So people just kind of flock to him. So I knew that I wanted to work for Curtis, and I knew that I wanted to work for Rackley Roofing. So I started hounding him to hire me. I'd call him daily, and I'd ask, do you have a position available for me? And I finally just said, you know what, I just need to ask for what I want. And so I called him one day and basically said, you need me on your team, and you need to hire me immediately. And I finally broke him down, and he said, I said, look, I want to be a part of a team that's going to be successful. If you don't need me, I'll look elsewhere, but I want to be somewhere that I can succeed and that I can be empowered to succeed. And he said, start Monday. And I did. When I started with Rackley, we really didn't have a service division. They had one crew, and that crew basically handled the leaks for the roofs that they installed. So I started kind of in the same position that I did at the other company, receptionist, filing, answering phone calls, that sort of thing. But we tried to grow that service division pretty quickly, so I moved into a more managerial role. I started coordinating the crews. I started, taking care of more paperwork, more and more responsibilities as we went on. And so as the service division grew, I became the service manager. Of course, similar to Lee, as a woman in the office, you start to take on just more responsibilities and whatever's needed. So I did human resource functions, took care of IT issues, helped with our software development, just really anything that needed to be handled, I would take care of. Since then, we've grown. I've moved into the position of Vice President of Service. I oversee our service divisions in 4 locations across the state, and we now operate a total of 14 service crews. I'm also heavily involved in 2 great women's organizations. I'm the Vice President of Communications for Women in Commercial Real Estate of Nashville, and I'm also the chair for the Tennessee Council of National Women in Roofing. And I'm really blessed to work for a company that believes in the empowerment of women, so much so that, as Jennifer mentioned, we're a founding sponsor of National Women in Roofing. And recently we've had a push to try and hire more women for our field crews. So we even have a recruitment video on our website, and it focuses solely on the women in our company. We're really hoping that we can start to set the bar high for others in our industry, and that others will start to follow. I'm also a working mom. I have 2 boys. They're ages 9 and 2, and I hope that as they grow up that they might want to also get involved in the roofing industry.
Great. Your story about knowing who you wanted to work for and going after that is fabulous. One thing I hear all the time here at Nations is it's the people, it's the people, it's the people. And Curtis certainly is the people and understands that concept, as you both continue to grow that company. Your points on there about handling everything as a woman is very valid, and we're going to talk more about that. And how you grew that service department from 1 to 14 and are now the VP is an incredible story, Michelle. Big kudos to you and your company. I would encourage everyone to go to the Rackley Roofing website. The video that they have on women in their company is powerful and can be used as a recruitment tool, not just for Rackley, but for all of us as we go out there and try to encourage more women and diversity in our industry. Michelle does run our Tennessee Council, and Michelle, do you have a meeting coming up? What is the date for that?
We do. We're actually, our next meeting is coinciding with the Tennessee Association of Roofing Contractors. It's in Florida, so if you are a lady listening from Florida and you want to join us, we would love to have you. The dates are going to be June 7th. Hold on, I'm trying to pull this up real quick.
Yeah. June
7th through June 10th. And we have several events during that week, so anybody can reach out to me and I can give you more information on that.
And we'll get more information out too on that. But thank you for spearheading that and telling your story. Thanks to all 3 of our storytellers. That concludes the story portion of this event, so that we can start to share how people get in the industry, how they're successful in the industry, and how the industry really is changing and elevating. Heidi, I think it's time to move on to the pros and cons, which we've touched on a little, but I know you're going to take it from here.
Thank you so much. And Jennifer, Lee, Michelle, and Greta, you guys are just so inspirational. So thank you. Thank you for sharing those stories and helping everyone to relate, because we are all in the same, we're all doing so many of the same things. In fact, Michelle talking about her children, wanting them to be in roofing someday. And Greta has said the same thing. Well, I have 2 kids who didn't go in roofing, but boy, they love roofing because they know everybody in it. So it's a family affair. It's something special. And that really kind of leads us. We're going to have a couple of slides here where we're going to just have some panel discussion on some hot topics that we see. Hopefully, if you have some topics out there that we don't talk about, please, either through the question in the chat box, send those over, or there'll be a survey at the end where you can send us more ideas on topics. But for today, our first slide is we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of being a woman in the roofing industry. Because let's be honest, there's anything in life, there are pros and cons, and it's good to be able to share these stories. So I would like to start out. Greta, I would love it if you would talk a little bit. You kind of mentioned it in your story, but about being a woman and a millennial, but being a woman and really being sometimes questioned as the leader of your company, which is so strange. So if maybe you could share that with the
Of
world.
course. Yes, certainly. Being a woman in construction, there's definitely great goods in it, but the one downside would be when you do get questioned on why are you here, or why are you part of this installation, or this, why are you here with the general contractor in this building of this home? We get questioned on it because there's this notion and stereotype that women don't belong in construction, that women belong somewhere else, maybe somewhere that's a little bit more feminine. And that's something that I've had to overcome throughout the years. It's a constant struggle. It is getting better because my knowledge is getting better. I trust myself a lot more, so my confidence has risen over the years. But there's definitely been a lot of bad times. And one bad time that I remember more than others was when I was assigned and I had bid for a commercial project here in Massachusetts, and I was awarded the job. I had met with the board many times, and we had discussed the scope of the work, and we had discussed how we were going to install the roof, and everything was perfect. And the first install day, I wanted to be there with my team. I wanted to lead them that first day. I wanted to be a part of it and just make sure that we were doing an amazing job because it was such a big commercial project. And as my crew and I were arriving, they were getting out of the cars. I was getting out of my car. I remember coming out of my truck, and as I was getting off, I see the gentleman, the lead of the whole project from the company that we had bid for the work from. He starts to come towards me, and I see that he's walking a little faster than usual. So in my mind, I'm like, what could be wrong? Like, what's happening? Everybody's doing so well. And he comes at me, and he's like, who's the manager here today? Like, who's the supervisor? Who's going to be here on site leading this team? And I said, I am. And he was very shocked, and he was like, what do you mean you are? Like, where's Freddie? Freddie's the other partner, and also he's a construction supervisor. And I let him know that he was coming a little later on, and I said, am I not capable to be here right now? Am I not good enough? And I remember looking at him saying, what is it about me that makes you uncertain whether I'm good enough here? We've had many conversations prior to this day. You know I'm good enough. And then at that point, he actually started questioning me and giving me job specs, and he kept telling me to say them out loud, and I did, and I passed this test, and I knew everything, all the codes, because I had read them. I know them. I'm obviously an educated individual, and I know my field very well. But after he left, kind of laughing, and we continued on with our day. But I was left there, and I felt, a feeling that I don't wish upon anyone. It was this feeling in my gut that that I wasn't good enough, that I had to prove it harder than the person standing next to me. And that feeling became amplified because behind me were all the men of my team, my employees, the people who looked to me for direction, the people who I am the leader of. They looked at me as if, well, maybe Greta's not good enough to lead us. Maybe Greta's not. So it was a very awkward and bad feeling to be placed in a position where not only am I questioned, but I'm also questioned in front of my team. And that was a very bad low in my career. Obviously, I've overcome that, and I've built a name for myself. But I don't think that situation was necessary, and I think it only occurred simply because I was a woman and I was a part of this multi-million-dollar construction site, and at that time they didn't feel that I was good enough.
Mm-hmm. Greta, that's a great story. I think all of us on this call, we've obviously had these conversations about being constantly questioned. Lee, you mentioned it too about being an expert at it. You have to be an expert. I get this constantly. I'm the president of the Northwest Division for one of the largest roofing contractors, and I can show up and the first thing I hear is, are you getting on the roof? Like, yep, I am. Let's go. And it translates for me and you, Greta, moving forward into determination. However, not all women react that way, nor should they have to react that way. And as an industry, we need to be conscious of this conversation if we're going to continue to retain and recruit women here. So I appreciate you sharing that. that just one instant that sums up a lot of things of what anyone with a little diversity has to deal with in an industry. Michelle, you've shared with me some stories too about how you've been treated working on both sides of being valued and valuing yourself. Do you want to share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. So I'm very blessed to work for a company and for a boss that understands the value of all employees, male or female. But I worked for a female boss before, and she was extremely condescending and undervalued all of her employees. And being a young and naive woman at the time, it made me start to undervalue myself, you know, and you start to question who you are and what you're doing. So when I was offered the position initially at the local roofing company prior to Rackley, both my supervisor and my general manager, Curtis, had asked me, you know, what are your salary expectations? I told them, and they both stifled a laugh. They let me know that the starting pay for that position was much higher than what I was asking for. And actually, within 30 days of me being hired, my supervisor came to me one day and he said, I really feel like you're underpaid for the work that you're doing. And so I was given a raise. So now that I'm working for someone and for a company that gives me the freedom to believe in myself, it's easier to see that it makes a huge difference. And I think that when you work with people who truly value your worth, you're willing to go the extra mile. You're willing to put more in. But I think ultimately it starts with yourself. If you don't value yourself, you can't expect those around you to think differently. And it's a problem. It happens all the time. I recently interviewed a lady. Exact same situation happened. I asked her what she expected as far as pay goes, and she asked for much less than what we were offering for the starting salary. So it really starts with yourself. You have to believe in yourself, but then also make sure that you work in a culture that is going to value you as well.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Valuing ourselves and our worth, and I mean, even just listening to these stories of the women we have on this call about doubling revenue, growing service departments from 1 to 13, the value can't be expressed anymore. You know, there's a lot of cons we could talk about, but there is hundreds and hundreds of pros in this industry. You know, it's an incredibly lucrative industry for everyone. There's a lot of growth here. Lee, I'd like you to touch on a few points of the pros in the industry, which there are many, many, many.
Sure, yeah. So I just have a quick story and then a couple pros. So I remember a few years ago we had a booth at a trade show, and this gentleman came up to me looking me up and down and said, do you even know what a square of shingles is? And I had to pause a second because I could not believe the question that he asked me, and I responded with, I really appreciate the fact that you think I'm just a pretty face that was hired to work a booth, but I'm very familiar with roofing systems and would be happy to answer any questions you may have. And with that being said, he kind of took a step back as well. And I feel like if any of you have had the pleasure of working a booth at a trade show, you might have had that experience as well. And so I feel like one of the big pros of being a woman in the roofing industry really is that we stand out. And I think that that's such a good thing. I encourage all of you on this call to stay empowered and really become the expert in the roofing industry and to own your knowledge and presence within your company, because I feel like Greta and Michelle have given us amazing stories about that, and I feel like that's a huge pro in our industry, is that we actually stand out.
You know, Lee, thank you. You know, I'm going to hop in here now just to kind of reemphasize that. I've obviously, my career has been sales and marketing, and so I've worked in a lot of booths, Lee, throughout the years, and have had comments that haven't always been what I would consider appropriate. But at the same time, I've also had huge amounts of support from the men and mentors in this industry. Is so amazing, and who really value the differences. Like you said, we stand out in sales and marketing. We can do things that a lot of times men can't. We can talk. We have empathy. Where there are things that about a woman that should be celebrated, and I really believe one of them is our energy. The energy we bring to the industry, the energy we bring to our jobs every day, the excitement of being a part of this great industry. We really need to celebrate that too, and I hear all of you talking about that. I've had at times in my life the comments of, you know, you're too positive, you're too optimistic, or, you know, you need to focus more on the numbers. Well, yeah, numbers are really important, but also all those other qualities, the creativeness, everything women bring to the table, which is across the board, is important and needs to be celebrated. So I think that's one of the big pros of this industry is you can be yourself. And even when maybe that tries to be stifled, there's enough really amazing, great people in this industry who are going to promote that and say, let's go, this is excellent. And I have had a number of women and men mentors, and I have them now who help me every day to be a little disruptive, do things different in this industry, and it's a great place to be. So thank you all for those pros and cons. And I do want to change the slide here and talk a little bit about how the industry is changing. So, you know, there is pressure looking for talent, whether from the rooftop to the boardroom, in all industries and trades. We're seeing this across the board. And it's really showing the importance of diversity. Looking at the roofing industry and saying, what are we missing? Well, we're missing diversity. We all know that. It's a very, I don't think anybody can say that that's not the truth. We need to look at all ethnicities. We need to look at all genders and really figure out how we can, in all ages, and how we can bring that talent to the industry. And so I would love to hear some of your thoughts on maybe some of the people that haven't been embraced. I mean, it's not just women. Sometimes there's some talk about millennials and millennials not having the same work ethic, and I don't believe that at all, but I would love to hear it from your perspective. So Greta, share a little bit, and I also know you, as you said earlier, you're an immigrant. That's amazing, and what your story is, your success story of coming to the U.S. I'd love it if you'd share that and how that's going to help the roofing industry overall.
Yeah, I mean, our story of coming to the U.S., I think I mentioned a little bit briefly. Yes, we did come here in the year 2000 with my mom and dad. You know, my parents, my mom was a general surgeon back home, and we left Albania to come to the United States because of this country's ability to let you become truly anything that you want to be with hard work and determination. And I'm a true prodigy of that. I'm a living proof that you can come to this country, and with hard work and determination, you can achieve all that you want. And so is my mom. You know, she's achieved a lot of her personal goals in this country once again. And I'm a millennial, you know. I'm a young individual. I'm 27 years old, and I run and operate a large roofing company here in Massachusetts, and I'm very proud of that. And I think millennials in general, there's this notion that we're not interested, or we're not ready, or we're too lazy. But I think it's just a misconception. Millennials just like to do things differently than most people. They have a different style of working. Maybe they work late at night or late on the afternoon, or maybe they work through their iPhone or iPad. So it's just a different style of working, but they do get the work done. And there's a great interest of millennials wanting to join the roofing industry. Every year I actually speak at Worcester State University, and last year when I was there, it was very beautiful because I was kind of reluctant because I wondered if people were going to want to ask me questions after, or if they were going to show interest in roofing or construction at all, because there is this notion of construction. You know, there was another guy who was speaking before me, and he had a large consulting business, so I thought he was going to get a lot more popularity than I was. But to go on and say that that wasn't the case. I actually got so many students, seniors, graduating seniors, who came up to me and expressed their interest of, is there a possibility for me to apply accounting to roofing? Is there a possibility for me, you know, do you know if GAF is hiring a certain team? You know, I'm a biotech major. Like, I would love to go into construction. So it shows that millennials are ready to work, and they are showing a great interest in construction because of the ability to adapt any major really to it. And there's so many blends of schedules, and millennials love to have an untraditional work schedules, and I think roofing allows for that. Roofing allows for a lot of different styles of work, as long as the overall goal is the same. You know, where I'm ready in my company, I'm ready to accept it. I'm ready to hire people that deliver results differently, but it's the same result. They just deliver it in different ways, because I understand that there's this whole new wave of work and this whole new wave of millennial workers coming into the job force today. And they are ready, they want the job, and they're eager, and they're very determined. And I welcome them to roofing personally here in Massachusetts myself.
Greta, that's awesome. That is awesome. And, you know, as we were practicing for this, and you mentioned it now twice, but the fact that your mom left a career in medicine as a surgeon in order to bring her family for you and for the family to be able to come to the U.S., I mean, that's the ultimate sacrifice. It's something I know I would do for my children, too, and it's something that I think is incredibly inspirational. So thank you so much for sharing that story. And the fact that I have 2 millennials of my own, and I know how hard they work, I really appreciate what you're saying, because we need to start thinking different in this industry if we're going to really recruit that talent and get future professionals like you and Freddie and the kids that you're talking to from Worcester. Sorry if I said that wrong. So kind of following that topic, Lee, I'd love for you to, you know, you've said some great things about it's when you're talking about millennials and women, that there's really a different way of looking at the workspace, in that it's really about a get it done attitude. What can I do to help the company overall? Can you kind of share that and some of that philosophy?
Yeah, of course. I am also a millennial. I think I'm on the older side of things, but still considered a millennial. And I couldn't agree more with Greta. I really feel like millennials have a different way of looking at things, and we really do whatever it takes to get the job done. Earlier, I spoke about some women I've worked with who have had the ability to communicate a message in such a strong way that truth isn't sacrificed, but neither was gentleness. However, just because the women I've worked with in the roofing industry have been gentle doesn't mean that they haven't been passionate. And as a millennial, I know that we're a very passionate group of individuals and have very strong beliefs. And one of the things that I've noticed and love about working in this industry is just that millennials are full of ideas and thoughts, and we're not afraid to share what we're thinking. And like I said before, we will do whatever it takes to get the job done. You know, I heard a quote once about the definition of leadership, and that's giving up power to get things done. And I really feel like millennials embrace that kind of style of thinking.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And you know, there's a lot of others, along with these awesome young women and men and who are coming up into our industry. There is a huge amount of women out there who either have had very successful careers working and raising children at the same time, or women who maybe are returning to the workforce after having a family. And so, Michelle, I know you've done an amazing job with you and your husband of full-time careers, raising 2 wonderful children, but you also are recruiting and you're looking for Rackley Roofing. And I know there's a lot of women out there who maybe are just coming into our industry at all ages. Maybe could you talk a little bit about that and what you're doing?
Absolutely. So really what we need to do is we need to start having more conversations with our leaders, with business owners, with management, about really what works best for each mom, what works best for each woman. I've got a 9-year-old and 2-year-old, and I worked up to my delivery date with both children. I'm not saying everybody should do that. That was just what worked best for me. With my 2-year-old, I determined what the expectations were going to look like, and I had open discussions with my boss about what those expectations were. I knew I didn't want to be away from work for the typical maternity leave time. That's just, it wasn't enjoyable for me. I really, to be away from the office that long bothered me. So what I did was I took a week off after my son was born, and then I worked from home for the rest of the 5 weeks. Again, that was my decision, and my boss really gave me the freedom to do that. I'm blessed that I've got a husband that's a true partner. We trade off on missing work for sick kids. We share household duties. He knows that there's going to be days that I don't get home for dinner or I don't get to put the kids to bed, and that's okay. I think the important thing is that you as a woman figure out what works for you. And I think that if we change the culture and we say, okay, as a company, we need to recruit women based on this idea, I think it's going to allow more women to want to join this industry. Let's start having open policies with our corporations. Let's start having these conversations. that either allow women the choice or the ability just to discuss those choices with working moms so that we can start, having a better relationship and making that distinction of work and the work-life balance that really doesn't exist, making that something that can work. And I really think that you just need to sit down and discuss those expectations with your boss.
That's great, Michelle. Thank you. That's, open communication. Isn't that what we bring? We like to talk. We like to communicate. And so that really makes everything better. And it makes everybody on the same page. But Jennifer, you are president of the Northwest for Nation's Roof. That is a huge position. Talk about the C-suite. And you're also raising some beautiful children. How are you doing that? I mean, from leading your company, being in charge, also having this beautiful family that you're doing as a single mom. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really important to show how amazing that is, and amazing. And then there's a lot of women who are doing that and having very successful careers. So please share with us.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'd love to say I had it all figured out. I don't by any means. I think one of the things that I'm going to share, and I've shared with the ladies on this call, is I was given, I work for a great company, number one, and I have a team, and I've built a team that understands that I will work constantly, but at 1 o'clock, if my kids have a track meet, I'm probably going there. Am I going to go to them all? No, but I'm not going to miss them all either. And one of the founders of Nation's Roof, his name was Ron Lewinsky, he actually just recently passed, was a gentleman who gave me a book. I was here for about a year, and the book was called The Balanced Myth. And number one, to get it from someone in your own company about women working was really, truly valuable for me in itself, because it showed me I was in the right spot, which we all have to kind of determine where that spot is. But in this book there, I read it, and it came to this paragraph talking about the balanced myth. And this woman who wrote the book, she's a very successful CEO. She runs a huge company, and she was talking about, she goes to the book and talks a lot about, daycare nightmares and all these things. And there was this paragraph that came to me when she was talking about the day she finally gave up keeping 2 calendars and how she incorporated the 2 calendars into one. And her whole team had it. And you know what? They all knew that the kids had a doctor's appointment, and that was just that. And when she started to embrace the 2 worlds as one, that's when she became the most successful. And that part in the book was one of those aha moments for me of, I don't have to be the president that has a wife at home. I don't have to be the president that pretends she doesn't have kids. I don't have to be the president that has her kids in here all the time. I can just be me and let my 2 worlds collide. And, it took me mid-40s to figure that out. And I still don't have it figured out all the way. But that really, for me and, for all the women on this call and anyone that's listening, it's just integrating who you are, letting people be who they are, and have the lives intertwined that seems to be making the most impact for me in my life. That's what I got.
You have a little bit of chills. That's just great. Thank you. That's how my career has been the same. I've been blessed to be able to mix my family and my career in this roofing industry, which I think is one of the biggest pros, because this is a very family-oriented industry, and we're very lucky that way. And as I shared during one of our practices, I always had this visualization of a Barbie in a briefcase. I mean, it's all going together, and we're all going to make it. We're all going to be successful together. And so I think in listening to these ladies today, everyone out there, you can hear that. You can hear what they're doing and how they're making a difference and how they're balancing their families, their life, their work, their climbing mountains. They are doing things that are making a huge difference running businesses. And so we want to be able to keep sharing these types of stories, these types of discussions. When we started National Women in Roofing 3 years ago, this was the whole idea. how do we talk about career paths? How we talk about these type of topics that really matter. More than once I've had young ladies come up and say, well, when should I start a family? And usually any of us who are older will say, whenever you want to. You need to do what's right for you. And so as we're looking at career paths and moving down that path, we are going to be sharing that through National Women in Roofing and the NRCA, who is incredibly supportive of us, and we appreciate so much. We are looking at what are the career paths out there? Manufacturing, distribution. Today we've had an extremely amazing example of roofing women who are working with roofing contracting companies, either owning them or working with them or running them, all different sides. And there's roof consultants. We have all types of wonderful career paths from the rooftop to the boardroom in this industry that we want to talk about, and we want to get more folks out there. So stay tuned. Please visit nationalwomeninroofing.com and find out what's available, what's coming up. I can tell you next week on the 16th, we will have another webinar hosted through National Women in Roofing that is going to be on career paths. And it's going to, one of the ladies presenting is a roofing consultant. Another lady works in manufacturing. And so we have all different types of information coming that is really going to make a difference and really help us with recruitment, which is, I mean, look at what Greta's doing. It's pretty dang amazing. That's the kind of recruitment we're talking about, really having people, having them all storm around saying, I want to be in roofing because you're so cool. That's what's happening with Greta and Freddie. And how are we going to continue to have this education, this professional development, so that we retain these powerful women and the talent that we have in this industry? So please tune in. Please, we're going to have questions in a minute. Before we get to the questions, I also want to mention a couple things. We are having educational, networking, and mentoring events, I should say, events at Western States. At the Western States Show, it will be Sunday at 3 o'clock before the show starts. I believe that's the 11th of June. And then at the Florida FRSA Show, we will have another event, which is also the day before the show starts. All that information can be found at nationalwomeninroofing.com. If you're in those areas or coming to those shows, please plan on attending. The mentoring that comes out of that and the networking is absolutely amazing. Also, we have councils all over the country. Two today that you heard about, Denver and Tennessee. And Greta, I'm pretty sure there's probably one coming your direction. And are you being involved in one?
I would love to be involved in one.
Yeah, she's been recruited right here. See, this is how we do recruitment. So those councils are all over. We have a list of them, again, on the National Women in Roofing. Get involved. It starts locally. Get to know folks. I'm super excited because we're starting one in, not me, but young ladies in Portland are starting an Oregon chapter. And Shelly Metzler, I actually worked with her dad in a roofing company when she was just a teeny bopper, and now they're starting a council, and she's the president of that company, Interstate Roofing. So there's a lot of great things going on. Find out about the councils. And we have a big push right now for founding members and founding sponsors until May 31st. So please be a member. If you think you're a member and you're getting emails, but you haven't actually gone on and signed up to be a member, you're not. So be that founding member. Be a part of what you've heard today. And I want to thank the NRCA. Reed Ribble just recently became a member. Allison LaValle is a chairperson of our membership, and she works with the NRCA. They are an amazing group, and they are letting us be here today to share the story. They believe in the diversity, and they believe in the women in roofing strongly and are incredibly supportive. So we appreciate that so much. And finally, I want to thank these panelists. I don't know about everybody out there listening, but I'm incredibly inspired, and it really takes me to that next step in my career, every little step when I see all this great stuff happening. So thank you, Greta, Lee, Michelle, and Jennifer for sharing your stories and inspiring all of us. So at this point, we would like to see if there's any questions. Brad is going to come in and help us with those questions.
There are actually not any questions that have come in to this point, but that is okay because we are very close to the top of the hour. However, don't let that deter you from entering one in last minute, like right now as I'm stalling. But thank you very much to Heidi, Jennifer, Greta, Lee, and Michelle for sharing your stories and your experiences. You guys did a great job, very inspiring. Heidi mentioned earlier a survey that we'll launch after you close out of the webinar. We would love to get your feedback on this presentation, and that will also be an opportunity for you to share other ideas and topics that you would like to see covered on future webinars as it pertains to women in the roofing industry. You can also indicate whether you'd like more information on National Women in Roofing on that survey as well. Heidi also mentioned our new CEO, Reed Ribble, our NRCA CEO, Reed Ribble. He will actually be giving a webinar next Wednesday. He'll be talking about how NRCA is responding to the needs of the roofing industry and kind of some initiatives we have going on to address concerns that we've received from roofing professionals from all over the country. So you can register for future NRCA webinars at nrca.net/webinar. That's also the website where you will find this webinar recording early next week. You'll receive an email once that's available. I'd like to thank our sponsor, The Estimating Edge, again for sponsoring today's webinar. And thank you again to all of our presenters today and to all of you guys for taking time out of your day to join us.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Have a great day, everyone.